Imagine carrying a suitcase filled with memories and feelings from childhood, some bright and joyful, others heavy and painful. These early experiences shape how you see the world, how you relate to others, and how you feel about yourself, often in ways you may not fully understand. Sometimes, hidden wounds from the past silently influence your emotions, decisions, and even your dreams. Pulling strings behind the scenes of your everyday life, it's like an invisible child inside you, who still holds onto fears, hopes, and unmet needs, waiting to be heard and healed. This inner child isn't just a metaphor. It's a real part of your emotional self that formed during your earliest years. When neglected or hurt, it can cause lasting pain, self-doubt, or patterns of behavior that keep repeating like echoes from the past. You might notice yourself reacting strongly to situations that seem minor, or feeling stuck in ways that don't make sense. These reactions often come from that inner child, trying to protect you, but also signaling that something needs attention. Healing this part of yourself means stepping into a gentle conversation with those feelings and memories. It's about offering compassion and understanding to the scared, lonely, or wounded parts within. When you begin this inner dialogue, you open the door to deep transformation. You reclaim lost innocence, creativity, and the ability to trust and love freely. The journey may bring tears, but it also invites hope and renewal. Many people avoid looking inward because facing childhood wounds can feel overwhelming or painful. Yet, embracing this inner part can free you from invisible chains and help you live more authentically and joyfully. The process is about more than overcoming pain. It's about reconnecting with the fullness of who you are, allowing your whole self to emerge stronger and more whole than ever before. Inner child healing is a profound journey of reconnecting with a part of ourselves that often remains hidden beneath the surface, a vulnerable, authentic self formed during our earliest years. This inner child holds the memories, emotions, and experiences that shaped us before we fully understood the world around us. Sometimes joyful and nurturing, other times marked by neglect or pain, these early experiences create lasting imprints on our emotional landscape. As adults, many of us carry wounds from childhood that continue to influence our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. These unresolved hurts can manifest in subtle ways, such as self-doubt, fear of abandonment, difficulty trusting others, or patterns of self-sabotage. Often, these patterns arise without conscious awareness, making it challenging to break free from them. The inner child, when neglected or hurt, can create barriers to emotional well-being and personal growth, limiting our ability to form healthy relationships or fully express ourselves. Healing this inner child involves more than simply remembering childhood events. It requires a compassionate and honest engagement with those parts of ourselves that have been wounded or overlooked. By acknowledging the inner child's feelings and needs, we begin to dismantle the defenses and denial mechanisms that keep these wounds locked away. This process fosters greater self-awareness and understanding and self-acceptance. One important aspect of this healing is the recognition that the inner child is also a source of creativity, spontaneity, and joy. When nurtured and embraced, this part of us reconnects us with our natural curiosity and capacity for wonder. It encourages a more playful, open-hearted way of living that is often lost under the pressures and responsibilities of adulthood. The journey of inner child healing is unique for everyone. It may involve exploring memories, emotions, dreams, or creative expression, and often requires patience and gentle self-care. Many find that opening this dialogue with themselves leads to breakthroughs in emotional freedom and personal empowerment. Ultimately, reconnecting with the inner child is about reclaiming wholeness, bringing together all the fractured parts of our being into a more integrated and authentic self. This process is not about erasing the past, but weaving it into the present in a way that honors both our vulnerability and strength. It invites us to grow beyond the limitations of old wounds and embrace a future shaped by compassion, understanding, and self-love. Many individuals carry emotional burdens from their childhood that silently affect their adult lives. These unresolved wounds often shape how they perceive themselves, interact with others, and respond to everyday situations. The challenge is that these early experiences are not always clearly remembered or understood, yet their influence persists beneath the surface, impacting mental health and relationships in subtle but powerful ways. For some, childhood may have been marked by neglect, criticism, abandonment, or trauma. Even less overt experiences, such as feeling unheard, misunderstood, or unsupported, can leave lasting emotional scars. These wounds may create internal conflicts, self-limiting beliefs, or fears that unconsciously guide behaviors and decision-making. People may find themselves repeating harmful patterns, struggling with low self-esteem, or feeling disconnected from their true desires and emotions. Often, these issues seem resistant to change because their roots are buried deep in the past. A major difficulty lies in the fact that many are unaware of how much their unresolved inner experiences shape their present lives. Emotional pain from childhood can be masked by coping mechanisms like denial, repression, or overcompensation. While these defenses may help manage distress in the short term, they also prevent individuals from fully processing and healing past wounds. As a result, the inner child, the part of the self formed during those formative years, remains hidden, wounded, and unheard. This lack of awareness creates a gap between conscious intentions and unconscious influences. For example, someone might consciously desire close relationships but find themselves pushing others away or feeling unworthy of love. Without understanding the inner source of these conflicts, individuals may become frustrated or hopeless, feeling trapped by patterns they cannot explain or control. The challenge intensifies because healing requires facing painful emotions and memories that were long avoided. Revisiting childhood wounds can trigger fear, shame, or vulnerability, making it difficult to engage in the healing process. Many people feel ill-equipped or afraid to confront these parts of themselves without guidance or support. Ultimately, the problem is not just the existence of childhood wounds, but the ongoing disconnect from the inner child that holds these experiences. Without reconnection and compassionate attention, this wounded inner part continues to influence the adult self negatively. Healing begins only when this gap is bridged, when the inner child is recognized, validated, and embraced as an essential aspect of the whole self. Healing the inner child involves a delicate and deeply personal process of reconnecting with the parts of ourselves shaped by early experiences. It begins with cultivating awareness, gently bringing to light those hidden emotions, memories, and needs that were overlooked or suppressed. This exploration is often facilitated by tools like journaling, meditation, or creative expression, which provide a safe space to access feelings that might otherwise remain buried. One important step is recognizing the patterns that link current challenges to past wounds. For instance, emotional triggers, recurring fears, or self-defeating behaviors often have roots in childhood experiences. By identifying these connections, individuals can begin to understand how their inner child continues to communicate through present-day reactions. This insight creates an opportunity to respond with compassion rather than judgment or avoidance. Dialogue with the inner child can take many forms. Some people imagine conversations where they offer kindness and reassurance to their younger selves. Others might write letters to the child within, expressing empathy and validation. These practices help bridge the gap between the adult self and the wounded parts, fostering a sense of safety and acceptance that may have been missing earlier in life. Healing also requires embracing vulnerability. The process invites individuals to face feelings of fear, sadness, or loneliness without retreating or suppressing them. This courageous acknowledgement can be uncomfortable, but is essential for true transformation. It allows the emotional pain to surface and be processed, rather than festering beneath the surface. In addition to emotional work, reconnecting with the inner child often rekindles a sense of playfulness, creativity, and spontaneity. As the wounded parts receive attention and care, the inner child's natural qualities can re-emerge. This renewal helps restore balance and joy, which may have been stifled by years of emotional survival. Support from trusted friends, therapists, or support groups can be invaluable during this journey. Healing is rarely linear. Setbacks, resistance, and difficult emotions are normal parts of the process. With patience and gentle self-care, individuals gradually build resilience and deepen their self-understanding. Ultimately, this exploration leads to integration, a bringing together of fragmented parts into a more cohesive and authentic self. By honoring the inner child, individuals gain access to a wellspring of strength, wisdom, and emotional freedom that enriches their present and future lives. The journey inward becomes a path toward wholeness, healing, and renewed vitality. The turning point in inner child healing often arrives unexpectedly, a moment when the walls built around old wounds begin to crumble. It can happen during a quiet reflection, a vivid dream, or an emotional breakthrough in therapy or personal practice. This key moment is when the inner child's presence is no longer ignored or pushed away, but fully acknowledged and embraced. It's a profound experience of connection, meeting the vulnerable self with compassion rather than fear or rejection. At this point, the individual often feels a rush of emotions, sadness, relief, anger, or even joy that have long been buried. These feelings, once overwhelming or frightening, are now met with acceptance. The inner child, once silenced or hidden, is given a voice and allowed to express itself freely. This release is both cathartic and healing, as pent-up pain finds a safe outlet and begins to transform. This moment can feel like a breakthrough in understanding. What was once confusing or mysterious suddenly makes sense. Old fears are seen as protectors of a fragile child. Self-destructive patterns reveal themselves as attempts to manage unhealed wounds. The clarity that emerges brings a shift in perspective. What was once a source of shame or pain becomes a vital part of the self-story, deserving of care and attention. With this awareness comes a deep sense of acceptance. The individual stops fighting or denying the inner child and instead begins to nurture and support it. This nurturing might involve self-care rituals, setting boundaries, or simply offering gentle encouragement during difficult times. The inner child feels seen and valued, which lays the foundation for lasting change. This pivotal moment often ignites a renewed sense of hope and empowerment. It signals the beginning of a new relationship within, a partnership between the adult self and the inner child based on trust and compassion. This alliance fosters resilience and encourages emotional openness, breaking free from the patterns that once held the person captive. The climax of this healing journey is not an endpoint, but a turning point, an awakening to the possibility of wholeness and integration. It marks the transition from fragmentation to unity, from survival to flourishing. In embracing the inner child, the individual unlocks a wellspring of creativity, joy, and authentic living that had long been obscured. This moment stands as a powerful testament to the human capacity for healing and transformation. The journey of healing the inner child is one of profound transformation that invites us to reconnect with a part of ourselves, often overlooked yet deeply influential. Throughout this process, the inner child moves from a hidden, wounded presence to a recognized and nurtured aspect of the self. By embracing this vulnerable part, individuals begin to unravel long-held emotional patterns and discover the roots of many personal challenges. This healing is not about erasing the past, but about integrating it with compassion and understanding. When the inner child is given attention and care, the pain that once held power begins to lose its grip. Instead of being a source of shame or fear, the memories and feelings from childhood become valuable guides, signposts that point toward what needs healing and growth. Reconnecting with the inner child also unlocks a deep well of creativity, spontaneity, and joy that can renew a person's outlook on life. The playful and authentic energy of the child within reminds us of our capacity to experience wonder, hope, and emotional freedom. This revitalization supports not only personal growth, but also healthier relationships and a richer, more fulfilling life experience. The path to healing requires courage, patience, and self-compassion. It involves facing uncomfortable emotions and memories, but doing so with kindness rather than judgment. Many find that this process is strengthened by supportive environments, whether through trusted relationships or professional guidance. Healing is rarely linear. Setbacks and challenges are natural parts of the unfolding journey. Ultimately, the integration of the inner child leads to a more cohesive, authentic self, one that honors both strength and vulnerability. This wholeness fosters resilience and empowers individuals to live with greater freedom and emotional balance. By listening to and nurturing the inner child, we reclaim parts of ourselves that were lost or neglected, allowing us to move forward with greater clarity and self-love. In embracing this inner healing, we open the door to lasting transformation. The inner child's voice becomes a source of wisdom and strength, guiding us toward a life marked by deeper understanding, connection, and peace. This journey reminds us that true healing comes not from avoidance, but from compassionate acceptance and integration of all parts of ourselves. If you've felt the subtle pull of unresolved emotions from your past, now is the time to take a step toward healing and wholeness. The inner child within you holds the key to unlocking deeper self-understanding and emotional freedom. Don't let those hidden wounds continue to shape your life from the shadows. Invite this part of yourself into the light with kindness and curiosity. Begin by creating space for your inner child in your daily life. This could mean setting aside moments for quiet reflection, journaling about your feelings, or simply acknowledging the emotions that arise without judgment. Pay attention to your dreams, spontaneous thoughts, or creative urges. They often carry messages from the inner child waiting to be heard. Allow yourself to listen with openness and compassion, Consider exploring practices that foster a connection with this vulnerable part of you. Guided meditations, art therapy, or writing letters to your younger self can be powerful tools to build this inner dialogue. If it feels overwhelming, don't hesitate to seek support from a therapist or counselor who can provide a safe space and gentle guidance through the healing process. Remember, healing is not a race, it's a gradual journey that requires patience and self-love. Be gentle with yourself as you uncover buried feelings and memories. Celebrate small victories and moments of insight, knowing that each step brings you closer to emotional resilience and authenticity. Invite the inner child to become a trusted companion rather than a hidden burden. Reparenting yourself with kindness can transform fear into safety, shame into acceptance, and pain into growth. This shift empowers you to break free from limiting patterns and live more fully in the present moment. By committing to this journey, you invest in a more vibrant, joyful, and balanced life. Healing the inner child doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you relate to yourself and others. It opens the door to healthier relationships, deeper creativity, and a renewed sense of purpose. Take that courageous first step today. Embrace the invitation to reconnect with your inner child and allow healing to unfold naturally. Your future self will thank you for the compassion and care you offer now. The path to wholeness begins within. Start your journey today and watch as your life transforms from the inside out.